Hi, my name is Kurt Bauman. This is my Unit 7 presentation for the Fire Rescue Executive's role in emergency management. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. I'd like to thank the governor for this appointment. As of now, check with me in a couple of months. I may feel a little bit differently. We may have another discussion, but I'd like to thank you for being here. I'd like to thank all of our other first responders for being here, emergency managers, public safety partners, all the hospitals, road services, garbage collection companies, agency representatives, power companies, Florida Department of Transportation, and also our guest of honor, the retired Dr. Kyle Bradshaw. Uh, Thank you for being here, Chief. I'll accept any feedback on this presentation that you'll be willing to give. My name is Kurt Bauman. Like I said, I'm the fire chief for Gainesville Fire Rescue and been recently appointed as a state emergency manager by the governor. Uh, I've been a fire chief for 15 years, according to the outline for this presentation. Um, Majority of my career has been spent with Gainesville Fire Rescue, except for my first 2 years when I began in the villages. But currently, previously, was a hazmat tech rescue lieutenant with Gainesville Fire Rescue. We've had some high profile events, um, 6 or 7 Saturdays every fall. Our population almost doubles in our city with University of Florida home football games. We do hazmat monitoring to keep all those fans safe. A lot of them without them even knowing we're there. Other events that we've had that we've had to deal with as far as emergency management goes would be Richard Spencer came to town and spoke. Um, we had his supporters. We also had his non-supporters, protesters that showed up in force, and it was a multi-agency response, to stand by and cover that event. Um, Also, we've had Air Liquide, which was a pretty significant hazmat response. We've had multiple hurricanes, Sedalia, Helene, Debbie, that all impacted our area. That dealt with us not only deploying our task force members to the most affected areas, but also us here having increased response. Um, and as far as emergency management goes, a lot of people tend to overlook it, but who all remembers COVID? Everybody having to deal with COVID, the uncertainty, not just here in Florida or the United States, but globally. That was something big that we all had to deal with, and we've learned from it, and we've moved on. Not from COVID in itself, but as far as learning from the response and what to do and what not to do. Um, Emergency management only succeeds when every responder and community partner stand together. Uh, while we've sworn to protect lives and property, we don't need to only focus on this through response. I think this needs to be addressed through training and preparation as well. I'm going to touch on it a lot. I think training and preparation and communication are big things for no matter what we try to do. Um, you know, um, Going forward, the next couple of years, it's my goal to improve on an already smooth machine. Um, you know, you know, I don't think anything is broke in the state of as far as emergency management goes. But we have an efficient machine and that just needs some fine tuning. Sadly, the reason we do respond so well are the seemingly annual events we have to utilize our skills with hurricanes. We had things thrown at us in the past as far as the Surfside collapse. You know, multi agencies, worldwide with Israel even sent a team to come help us with that. And then last year, something that we're not accustomed to, a winter storm in Florida. I have family members up north that were calling asking us, hey, what's going on in the state of Florida? You guys get a little bit of snow, but that's something we're not prepared for. We don't have the salt trucks, we don't have the plows, so that's something that we may need to prepare better for in the future. Um, strengthening goals here with statewide coordination. with the state EOC, we have the new hazmat and USAR liaisons that are the subject matter experts that are in constant contact and evaluating our teams in the field. Um, we can't just get better through deployments. And, I'm going to touch on it again. We need to come back to training and, communications. We don't know what we don't know until we know what we don't know. And we can identify these kinds of things in our training. Um, and then also, you know, not only operationally do we need to train, but I think, clerically, um, once the governor declares a state of emergency in accordance with, Florida State Statute 252, and we can get reimbursed federally for a lot of our expenses, we have to know how, and we have to know what. And, that falls back on us, to get into the statewide emergency response plan. In the SERP, it goes over, all of our 214 activity logs. We need to ask questions. What is reimbursable, what isn't, and none of this is available to us until the governor declares his state of emergency. And here proactively, because we have so much experience with it, we've been able to do it. But familiarization with that activity log clerically, it would be crucial, for financially to get us those reimbursements. We need to be proactive in doing these. Um, as far as new technologies, we have drones. There's more satellite data. There's more projections available as far as weather events go. For us, that's the hurricanes and the winter storm. Was it as bad as we thought it was going to be? Some places it was worse. So once these states of emergency gets declared, we can get the resources in place to be able to address these and handle them. Um, After action improvement that we can utilize, it would be the debris removal, because until we get the debris out of the way, we can't fully evaluate the areas that have been the hardest hit to get the resources in there to them. So, um, having tree companies, line crews, everything ready to get in there, um, sometimes ahead of our responders, because we're going to have to get things out of the way to get our responders in there. Um, you know, Statewide standards for post-incident reviews and learn some lessons. Um, Going back to the debris removal and everything, sometimes we can't put the cart before the horse. We can't get in there and assess these areas until we can actually access them. Um, our specialized response teams, USAR and hazmat, they're used all the time. Locally, here recently, our hazmat teams have been getting stood up, you know, in addition to our task force. Here locally, we have task force 8 between Ocala, Gainesville, and Marion County that, gets deployed regularly because of the swift water complement. And, we're starting to attach and see hazmat units be attached to them because of the presence of hazardous materials. I think Hurricane Ian, turned us on to the effects of saltwater exposure to lithium ion batteries in some of the uh, electric cars, electric vehicles. So that's something else that we need to be aware of. So they're starting to attach, hazmat and them training together and emergencies know no boundaries. Our guys go to South Florida. South Florida's guys come up here, um, working and training. And I think more emphasis on our liaison positions with the new hazmat and USAR liaison in the emergency management center, um, will also be key in knowing, having a better finger on the pulse of what resources are out there and the capabilities of each task force. We've seen an uptick in wildland firefighting here recently with brush fires, and everybody's going to be pushing climate change and La Nina, El Nino, and these are things that can be projected. Um, Interagency training, coordination again, and big thing is communication. If we don't know somebody needs something unless they tell us. We don't know if somebody's shortcomings unless they're identified. And we can identify these ahead of time through training, communication, and correspondence. Preparedness campaigns for wildfire risks, weather services, projected forecasts. Everybody's big on the El Nino, La Nina, swells, and rainy seasons, dry seasons. Um, there's a wealth of information out there, and we just need to be able to evaluate it and utilize it. Um, Integration of EMS and fire operations. First responders. You know, we are all medical responders. And, here we're all dual certified EMTs, firefighters. Majority of us are paramedics. So as far as rendering aid, we're able to do it. But from their rendering aid, I think increasing capacity through um, some more training with the hospitals to understand not only their capabilities but their capacities. Communication again, training. Making contact with these hospital officials and kind of having a working knowledge and points of contact where if we have more questions, who can we access? All of this, all it really does is ensure the continuity of services for those affected in emergencies. Um, Working together with public and private sectors. Uh, you know, private industry partners for logistics, infrastructure, and community recovery. Yeah, we our tech teams have immediate go packages that we just have to call Home Depot. Let's partner more with Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, even Harbor Freight for equipment. If we need shovels, we need tools. We need to know what we need and places to get it from. Um, Public officials, elected officials, it's key to have their support. If they have our support, the public, normally in turn supports them, because we are the ones on the front line that would be providing for them and helping the public, but also keeping public officials in the loop of what's going on. Um, as a supervisor, none of us like to be blindsided by any kind of information, and elected officials are the exact same way. They like to be kept in the loop. Um, you know, local supporting local agency partnerships with emergency messaging around us. College kids aren't turning on TVs to watch the news. They get their news from social media. It has to be credible sources. So strengthening the credible sources. X, formerly known as Twitter. That's where a majority of the people in our city get their news. Because their faces are in their phone and they're not really sitting around watching TV anymore with the addition of like Netflix and things like that. They're not watching local news stations, getting the local news. So updating and constantly updating your apps to get the newest news out in timely manner. Work with state and federal agencies, work with FEMA, the National Guard. All of that comes in once that state of emergency is declared by the governor in Florida State Statute 252. Being able to utilize those sources, use the National Guard to help get supplies into the affected areas using their resources, whether it be like high water trucks or boats or even helicopters. Worst case scenario, some of the outlying islands get hit. We have helicopters, um, but coordination during large scale incidents through standardized procedures and information sharing. You know, and again, it comes back to training and interagency collaboration like that. It's gonna be huge in assisting in times like this. Um, Trends. We can improve public communication strategies. Like I touched on it a little bit already. Social media. That's where the younger generations get in their news. They're not sitting around watching the news at noon to get their info. Their phones are always in their hand, and if it comes to them, they'll get it. And sometimes it could even be faster and more efficient than waiting for the news to come on. Increase communication, know when to leave as far as evacuations go. If let them understand when it's time to go, when they can shelter in place, and then if they do have to evacuate, understand where they can go, where they need to go, and the shelter locations and availability. Um, Another big thing is responder wellness. We've got to think about our guys. Debrief, and after incident, discussions. If you call it anything more technical than that, some guys may shut down and walk away from it. Sometimes it could be a dinner discussion. Um, But after these, after these large scale events, we need the safety, rest, and recovery for our guys. We have to take care of our guys so we can take care of other people. We try to be strong, but we see and deal with things that normal people don't on a daily basis, and it adds up. We have to have outlets, and we need to enforce the positive outlets for our members. Um, you know, the diversity of our groups. Everybody likes to see their own. Um, so and I think by getting out there in the social media, we can reach these people to generate a genuine interest in what not only what we do, but how we do it. We can bring in so many more people, ensuring community buy-in. Like if there are local people, we have a lot in our department that grew up in Gainesville, that are locals, that they see people that know them or that they know everywhere they go, and like that community buy-in is huge. Not only as far as credibility and integrity goes, but just for just responsiveness. Um, we can offer leadership pathways for underrepresented groups in emergency management. Get out there and recruit, actively recruit, and show them not only like what we do, but how we do it. Generate that natural interest in what we do, be visible and draw in that interest. Um, Training and professional development. I've touched on it a lot. Training, development, and communication is really, 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 really what we need to focus on. Everything goes so much easier when everybody's informed. Um, Prepare for all facets, advanced simulation-based training, like in all facets, from the moment that the governor will declare his state of emergency through the entire process, through the deployments, through the cleanup, through wrapping up all that paperwork for reimbursements. If we practice it, we'll be fluid at it, and we can be efficient. Um, Promote leaderships and certification opportunities. Again, this, kind of in not really an enticement, but maybe a reward, if you want to call it that, but something that they can get out of it personally, something that they can look at themselves, be like, hey, this is what I did. Look at what I can do. Partner with universities and training centers. It's real easy for us to say in Gainesville with everything we have. You know, Again, in closing, together we can all build a stronger, safer, and more resilient Florida. I mentioned it numerous times, training and communication. It's not stressed enough that we don't know what we don't know until it's realized. This can be identified in lower stress times that actually preferred time to find out is in these trainings, not under stress when people's lives depend on what we do and how we do it. Um, and again, interagency work. Learn and know the people around you, the departments around you, your areas. So that way, if somebody else comes in and they're trying to help you in yours, we're always there to help. Um, so I want to thank you, the governor. Thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Bradshaw. I really appreciate this class. Learned a lot, and I will utilize a lot from this class moving forward. Thank you. I'm open to feedback on this, and now I'm just going to try and upload this and get the transcript printed out. Thank you.